It's Wednesday, March the 9th. Lake levels, a little over 915, hasn't changed much since last week. Water temperature, it's anywhere from 47 to 50 degrees when you first put in. And depends where you're at on the lake. Sun gets out in the afternoons, water's warming up really good. You know, for the most part, you'll find a lot of 51 to 53. But this past weekend when the sun got out, I found a lot of creeks that had, 53, some as high as 56 degrees in the backs of the pockets. Now, we've got quite a little bit of rain forecasted for the next 3-4 days. We haven't got too much yet, so, the lake hasn't done anything crazy, but they say we could get 5-6 inches of rain. But if that doesn't happen, the lake, everything will stay good. The fishing's getting better and better every day. Some days are a little tougher than others as far as the numbers of fish. The quality is pretty much there for the most part. And I think we're only, week and a half away from some fish being up on spawning beds. There's a lot of males moving back into the spawning areas right now. And you'll catch a few occasional females, coming in and out. Now, watercolor on the lake, the river arms, they got real good color. Got a nice green color, as does like Campbell Point down to Baxter. Kimberling City, the water's clearing up a lot better. It's got more of a green than it does a brown. The only kind of funky colored water seems to be down around Indian Point. It's almost got like a turnover color. Now it's been catching some smallmouth down around from State Park to Indian Point. And, like I say, all the river arms have been producing. What I've been keying on, if you're up in the river arms, I need to also mention the upper white. The clearest water on the lake is probably from the mouth of the Kings River up towards Eagle Rock. So, that's a good area to throw Alabama rig, jerk bait, swim with single tail grub. You get up around Big M and in that area, it's got 5 to 6 foot of visibility, nice clear water. So the clear water baits are working up there a little bit better. But throughout the rest of the lake, majority of the fish still pretty shallow. We're catching them on crankbaits, jigs, and I've been catching some on a spinnerbait. Now, a lot of what I'm keying on, if you're up in the river arms where the water gets a little skinnier, any place there's a bluff that's got little pockets or little cuts in that bluff, you want to fish every one of them. You want to fish the bluff ends, and depending on the water depth, but you want to get up on the bluffs, get up tight to the bank, where you can keep that bait 6 to 10, maybe as deep as no deeper than 12 foot. Your crankbait, spinnerbait, or jig, whatever you're throwing. And even if you're back into creeks, you kind of want to key on the same thing. Naturally you won't have bluffs in the creeks, but wherever the bigger rock is and the steeper bank, normally that's where the channel swings in. And those are the areas that you want to key on, is where the channel swings in and touches the bank and where it comes out, or if there's pockets on them same stretches. Now, a lot of the baits that have been working good are the same crankbaits that I talked about in the previous reports. Strike King 3X, 5XD, Wigglewort or Rock Crawler. And a lot of the crawdad patterns, something with some orange, some green, and brown seem to be working the best. Now, something else I am catching them on them channel swings, same areas I'm throwing a crankbait and spinnerbait. This is a deal that I throw, this time of year. Crocker Gator makes it. This has got a Crocker Gator shaky head, and this is what they call this swamp bug. It's about a 4-inch bait. Kind of looks like a centipede up here with a single tail. And what I'll do is I'll throw it up on the rocks and work it down real slow back to the boat. I'll try to keep the boat at a 45-degree angle, so I can cover, from the bank out to about 8 to 10 feet. And if I find a certain depth that they're in, I'll try to key on that area. But mainly what I'm trying to do down on them rock wall bluffs and bluff ends is keep the bait right on bottom and work it off them rocks. And a lot of your bites are going to come when it comes off of one rock and the bait's falling. All of a sudden the fish will just pick it up and swim with it. A lot of the bites hadn't been what I would say a violent strike. It's just been more of a pressure bite. And this is also a good little bait. Like up in upper river arms, there's a lot of laydowns and a lot of trash you can flip. You can either flip a little pig sticker jig or jewel jig, or the Crocodile swamp bug. Seems like it's a little bit more of a finesse style bait. I'm getting a few more bites on it right now. Another thing I'm catching them on some of the secondary points, especially if it's a gravel. Some of the fish are starting to move up on gravel points. And this is it's a ½ ounce. It's called Pig Rig. It's like a Biffle hardhead. And I've got a Strike King Green Pumpkin Menace on it. And the way I fish this is basically just like a crankbait. I'll cast it out, let it get on the bottom, just keep the bait moving real slow, trying to keep it in contact with the bottom. Another bait that the fish are starting to bite too. Normally this is a bait that I would throw at like Lake of the Ozarks, Grand Lake, or Beaver Lake when the water's stained and dirty in the spring. Normally we don't have dirty stained water here on Table Rock, or not throughout the lake. But I've been mixing the spinnerbait in with the crankbait and the jig on these same areas that we just talked about, in the backs of the pockets, some in the backs of the creeks. And what I'm doing with this, depending on how, a lot of times I'll go, in the backs of the pockets to where there's about 12 foot of water. Sometimes I'll keep the bait on bottom, just barely thumping. A lot of times I might try to keep the bait 3 or 4 feet up off the bottom. Just got to kind of play with it to see where you're getting your bites. But you've got to really pay close attention on this spinnerbait. It's just like you do with the crankbait. You're not going to feel, the fish aren't smacking it. Pretty much what they're doing is just sucking the bait in, loading up. With this, it's got a little red Colorado blade and a big gold Indiana blade. The bait's got a lot of thump to it. So you'll feel your rod tip thumping the whole time you're reeling it. What the bite's going to feel like is you're going to not feel that thumping. All of a sudden it's going to feel like a mush. If you feel that, you need to be setting the hook. Sometimes it might be a leaf or a little piece of trash. The same as with the crankbait. When you stop feeling the wobble of that bait, you want to be setting the hook. It's either going to be a fish or you picked up a little leaf. Now, the next 8 to 10 days, we've got some 70, mid 70 degree days. I didn't see one day where the low was below 40. So that water is going to do some serious warming up. Like I say, I think within the next week and a half, we're going to have a lot of fish up on beds. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some, on beds or real close to it right now, as stable as the nights are getting. And, excuse me, also up in the river arms, the white bass are starting to show up. So there's a lot of things starting to happen. Looks like once this rain gets out of here, weather's going to be good. You get a chance, you need to get out and do some fishing. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.